Council, Monday, February 9, 2015, 7 p.m. And I would invite everyone to join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Council meetings are run under the Robert's Rules of Order and additional rules that were adopted at the November 2014 organizational meeting. Also, I would ask if you have electronic devices with you, please turn them off or put them in silent mode for the duration of the meeting. Item 4, adoption of Ellsworth City Council minutes of January 12, 2015.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved and second. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion 6-1 and
Abstain.
1 abstain.
Seem to have missed that one.
That gives me a good opportunity to say all councilors are present and accounted for at this meeting. Thank you. Item 5, City Manager's Report. Manager Beal.
I actually don't have anything. I think this agenda is so long, I think everything that we're working on is on the agenda tonight, so
Kind of winding down.
I'm unnecessarily quiet. Yeah.
Not yet.
All right. Any questions of the manager? Guess we'll get to most all the items as we're going through the agenda. Item 6, committee reports. Any councilors have reports from committees committee meetings they've attended since our last regular meeting? Councilor Forty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Recreation Commission met last Wednesday night. We thought the sole item of the agenda was going to be the Winter Carnival, but we also reviewed recommended budget items for this fiscal year coming up, and then proceeded on Saturday to have another highly successful Winter Carnival. Had a lot of kids and their parents, real good projects for this cardboard sled race at Woodlawn Museum. Fortunately, we had adequate snow. Ellsworth Snowmobile Club, we appreciate them giving rides around the loop in their sleigh. And then went to the ice skating rink for free skate. We didn't have any teams that signed up for clam boot hockey this year, so we just kept it free skate all day and had a marvelous fireworks presentation that evening. So thank all the hardworking Recreation Committee members, and a lot of high school students were recruited for community service for the whole day. So community had a good time. And Cadillac Mountain Sport, I got to give them a peg, had free skate rentals all day, and a lot of people went up and got some. So
Nice.
Good time.
Nice. Special thanks to them, I'm sure. All right. Anything else, or any other committees to report?
We got the chairman of the Harbor Commission. Maybe he'd like to speak instead of one of us.
Chairman speak.
Mr. Remick, do you want to speak on the Harbor Commission meeting? If you would, come to the podium, please.
Well, I've prepared a lengthy presentation for you.
Yes, I can see.
Harbor Commission is right on track, developing budgets, cleaning up from last year, getting ready for next. Waiting lists are, I think at this point, we're about 4 deep on the harbor, on the mooring field, and the slips look to be full as well. We occupied the new floats, the float docks. Those were at 100% by the end of the season. And we met last week as a special meeting for the harbor vendor, and we'll get to that later tonight. Questions?
Questions of the commission? No? Thank you. Appreciate that. Any other committees to report? Seeing none, we'll move to item 7. And item number 7 is citizen comments. This is a portion of the meeting where we invite citizens to make presentations to the council on any of the subjects that you would like to speak to us on. We don't necessarily enter into a discussion on these, but we hear you out and give you 3 to 5 minutes depending on your content. So anybody have anything you would like to say, please come to the podium and state your name for the record. And we'd like to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm Mark Whiting. I live in Ellsworth, and I'm a volunteer for an organization called 350.org. And I would like to make a recommendation to the council that the city consider divesting from fossil fuels. I have a couple of handouts. Can I take a moment to pass these around?
Yep, the clerk or manager will handle that for you.
Okay, yes. So there's two handouts. Thank you very much. So one handout is a press release from the British Parliament on the so-called carbon bubble. This is the idea that there's so much fossil fuels out there that there's just so much more than we can possibly burn without toasting our planet. And so what's happening is that there's currently much more supply in fossil fuels out there than we can possibly burn. This is driving the price down. For fossil fuels, which is good for us consumers, but it's also having a big effect on markets. Fossil fuel companies theoretically have trillions of dollars of assets in the ground. Some people have estimated this to be about $27 trillion worth of fossil fuels. Unfortunately, we can't burn even a fraction of that. At least $22 trillion will have to be left in the ground. But these fossil fuel companies nevertheless use this to get bank loans and so forth, and so it's really part of their assets. What's happening is that people are coming around to the concept that because we have to walk away from $22 trillion worth of fossil fuels, that these fossil fuel companies aren't really worth as much as they seem to be. So that's the carbon bubble. That's what the press release from the British Parliament is talking about. And the idea is that then fossil fuel investments are just not as good as they used to be, and that's why I'm here today. So 350.org is an organization of volunteers. Our mission is to save the world, as it were, through trying to get individuals and institutions to divest from fossil fuels. Fossil fuels are the dirty, old technology, the one that we have to get rid of, and we need to move to cleaner technologies. I propose that Ellsworth take a look at its investments in Wall Street. I don't know what investments Ellsworth has, but I think it'd be a good idea to look into it. There's probably some contingency funds, some funds for cemeteries, cemetery maintenance, or playgrounds or something like that, where there's been private donations. These have gone into some kind of trust fund, and this might be invested in Wall Street. So I propose that we find out what we have invested in this way and whether or not it's invested in fossil fuels. And if so, I would propose that we consider getting rid of it, divesting from fossil fuels and putting that money into something more sustainable, something that has more of a future. For instance, the Rockefeller Foundation, you may have seen news that the Rockefeller Foundation this summer divested from fossil fuels. And they gave several different reasons why they did that. Number one, they thought it was the ethical thing to do. They wanted to make sure that they were passing on a habitable planet to our children and our children's children. And who wouldn't want to do that? Another thing that they were thinking is that the Rockefellers were the original oil company in the United States that became Standard Oil. This was a big deal in the past, but the Rockefellers felt that they wanted to be associated with the energy of the future. They didn't want to be just thought of as being associated with the dirty fuels of the past. And they also felt like they wanted to be part of our energy, future energy solutions, rather than our energy problem. And then the final thing that I think that they were interested in, they didn't mention this at their press conference, but I think they were thinking about the carbon bubble. These guys have scientists working for them. They have all these investment gurus working with them. And I think they realize that currently there's probably about 3 times as much fossil fuels already untapped. So these are wells that have already been drilled. These are fracking of wells that have already been fracked, mountaintops that have already been removed, tar sands in Alberta that have already been developed. There's about 3 times as much of that as we can safely burn and still have an inhabitable planet. And that means that the market has much more fossil fuels than we can burn, and it's driving the price down. And in the past, OPEC has been the safety valve. So when there have been these kind of market forces going on in the past, OPEC has pumped more or it's pumped less in order to maintain the right balance between supply and demand to maintain optimal prices. But a recent report in the journal Nature points out that Saudi Arabia and OPEC and just about every oil-producing country is going to end up with trillions of dollars of stranded assets, of coal and oil and gas and whatnot that simply can't be burned. And what this means is that these oil companies, especially OPEC, which has about 1/5, Saudi Arabia alone has 1/5 of the oil reserves on planet Earth. They realize that they have to pump this and sell it, or they're going to lose it. And what that means is that not only is the price of oil going to be depressed, but these same market forces that depressed it in the first place are going to prevent it from fully recovering. So I think we're going through a period now of price instability in these markets. And I think that in addition to the ethical reasons, I think there's also the fact that I think we can do better with our investments. That coal and oil have been losing value lately, especially last year. Coal has lost 75% of its value in the last 5 years, while the Dow Jones has increased by 63%. Oil usually shows a profit of some kind, but last year it was a losing proposition. Even oil lost 15% last year due to the dive in oil prices. So I think I would propose that Ellsworth divest for the same reason that the Rockefellers divested. I think it's the right thing to do. I think thinking about the future is a good thing. We need to be thinking about future generations. We certainly want to be part of the solution and not part of the problem. And quite frankly, I think we can make more money elsewhere. So anyway, I hope you guys are interested in this, and I'd like to pursue it further. But thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Are there any questions?
Questions of Mr. Wright? Thank
Big
you.
weekend
We need
coming
some
up
time.
this weekend.
That's right. Thank you very much.
Your comments have been heard, and we thank you for the information, and we'll review that as we deem necessary for the future, so thank you.
Terrific. Thank you.
Anyone else? Citizen comments? Anyone else? All right, we'll move to item 8, which is the presentation of awards, presentation of the firefighter of the year. This award will be presented by Chief Tupper. You have the podium, sir.
Good evening. Thank you very much for some time. I'd like to read a little bit of what this award represents, if I could. The Firefighter of the Year medal is awarded yearly to any firefighter who has stood out from the others in performing his or her duties as firefighter for the Ellsworth Fire Department. To be eligible, as any non-probationary firefighter is eligible to compete for this award. The nomination criteria is that you must be nominated by a member of the Ellsworth Fire Department or the Senator Hale Hose Company. And the nominated firefighter must show achievements or contribution in the following areas: competence, leadership ability, following orders, being resourceful, attendance at fire department functions, and there's also a category for others so that whoever's nominated can provide a little bit more information. For this nomination that is the recipient of this award, I'd like to ask Gary Saunders to come on. But I'm going to talk about him a little bit and put him on the spot and put him out there a little bit above the rest. I'm going to stand up front. The nominator wrote, under competence, Gary's competence has proven itself through the years with actual positive results. Education concerning fire safety that is taught in the Ellsworth school systems is working in the homes and businesses of the Ellsworth community. Children that have sat under Gary's tutelage have not only passed the information on to parents at home, but have grown up and now have children of their own that are sitting under the same compassionate training. Some of those that have sat in Gary's classes have carried the fire safety attitude into the businesses that they have established here in Ellsworth. The proof is in the numbers. Numbers concerning actual fire events and injuries from fires within the borders of the city of Ellsworth. It is just not being competent. It's about having a compassionate attitude that drives the competence for the fire safety program that benefits the entire city. Under leadership abilities, Gary has shown his leadership skills as lieutenant of the Ellsworth Fire Department, leading his shift by working with and alongside those that are assigned to him. He strives to be sure that they have the encouragement and the support they need to learn the progress daily. Gary is fair yet firm and is able to communicate to those around him and strives to be sure that he communicates and not just talks his crew. Gary's leadership, communication, and workmanship skills allow him to see positive results in the tasks and daily projects being completed in a timely fashion. Being a leader, Gary has been and is always approachable and willing to listen to the ideas and concerns of his crew and work alongside them when his help is needed in getting a task completed. He follows orders very well. From the nominee here, ever since I have known Gary, he has always followed orders. Completing tasks that have been assigned to him has never been a problem. It's in not just following orders, but if asked to do something, he is willing to step in and assist with completing a task. Gary has worked tirelessly in such projects as the training center, the fire safety trailer, special modifications for individual fire apparatus, and other numerous products throughout the years. Gary is not afraid to tackle a new or unfamiliar tasks, given an order or assignments charting unfamiliar territory. He will tirelessly strive to accomplish it to the best of his ability and continue until the project is complete. And I would have to say that I have agreed with every single one of these statements as it comes down to it. He's very resourceful. Gary is quite resourceful in many ways. His talent and experience in fabrication has saved the city of Ellsworth and the Ellsworth Fire Department, both in time and money. One major item that is evident countywide is his dedication in making available the fire safety trailer by other fire departments and ensuring that it is delivered to those departments in a timely fashion. It is a monumental task getting the trailer to a different departments, yet he sees that it is done. And when that is done, that isn't just simply delivered, that's set up and training if there's a new person that's going to be using it from the other department, and it's to make sure that they know that well. Gary's involved in the Every 15 Minutes program at the Ellsworth High School and maintaining the fire department presence in that program. Organizing and preparing for the Fire Safety Weekend every year and all of the other activities that go on during that weekend. The list of things that he has either taken on or is continually taken on just grows and grows. Gary's resourcefulness is second to none. And under the other column, as a personal friend, Gary has been an encouragement to me. Gary has a talent for making people sit up and take notice when he speaks. I think that's called speaking from the diaphragm.
Using the outside.
Yes. A very convincing voice and character with honesty and compassion is why he is admired by so many. I envy Gary sometimes and wish I had his talent and wit of humor and quick thinking. As an educator, Gary strives to get the lesson of fire safety to all, including firefighters, helping to understand that there is no glory in the mitigation of an emergency or putting out a fire that could have been prevented in the first place with education. And that goes right along with our mission statement downstairs. It is those personal traits and talents, the character that make Gary Saunders who he is and what he is. And we all feel that he deserves this medal with honor. And I got to say that this is probably one of the most joyous things that I can do, is to be able to present an individual with an award such as this. So we're going to give him a plaque that says Firefighter of the Year for the 2014, Gary Saunders, presented in recognition of your hard work and dedication to the Ellsworth Fire Department and the Cinder Hale Hose Company for the extra effort that you've exhibited in the form of competence, leadership, responsibility, resourcefulness, and attendance. And we actually awarded this on the 3rd day of February at our annual Scallops Stew Supper. But we'll make it official here. Go along with this so that he can show himself off a little bit. The Firefighter of the Year badge and service star that he can wear proudly. Again, thank you very much. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to add that some of those skills were developed by Gary over a half a century ago as an outgoing and outstanding member of the Shady Nook Softball League.
Not to be overlooked, right?
Not to be overlooked.
And we extend our congratulations to you, Gary, on behalf of the City Council. Thank you, Chief. All right, we'll move on to the consent agenda. We have 2 items on consent agenda. Unless any council member requests one be removed, we will take them together. Anyone want either 9 or 10 to be taken off? All right, I'll entertain a motion then to accept the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded that we accept the consent agenda, items 9 and 10. Any further discussion? All those in favor? That's unanimous. Item number 11, new business. Public hearing and action on the issuance of business licenses. First one is Alicia Suthafong, doing business as Bangkok Restaurant, 78 Down East Highway. Renewal of a City Class B license, victular, liquor, amusement, and renewal of a state restaurant, Class 1, 2, 3, 4, liquor license, malt, spirituous, and vinous. Any comments from council before we open the public hearing? Are all things,
Yes, all of these on the agenda tonight are fine.
all 5, no issues?
No issues.
All right. Public hearing is now open. Anyone wish to comment on this application? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Council action.
Mr. Chairman.
Move approval of the Bangkok Restaurant.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous. Next one is L Govs LLC, doing business as Governor's Restaurant, 253 High Street. Renewal of a City Class C license, victular and liquor, and renewal of a state restaurant, Class 1, 2, 3, 4, liquor license, malt, and vinous. Any comments from council? Public hearing is now open. Anyone wish to comment on this particular license? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Council action.
Mr. Chairman, move approval of Governor's Restaurant application.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor? And that's unanimous. Next license, Dana Cassidy, doing business as Colonial Inn, 321 High Street, for renewal of a city lodging license. Any council comments? Public hearing is now open. Anyone wish to comment or question this license? Seeing none, the public hearing is closed. Council action.
Mr. Chairman, move approval of Colonial Inn application.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Next is Fishmain Inc. doing business as The Cellar, 112 Main Street. Renewal of a City Class B license, victular liquor amusement. Renewal of State Restaurant Lounge Class 11 liquor license, malt, spirituous, and vinous. Any comments from council? Public hearing is open. Anyone care to comment on this? Close the public hearing. Council action.
Mr. Chairman, move approval of Fishmain Incorporated application.
Second.
Moved and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. And last but not least, Betty's Hilltop House, 337 High Street, for a new City Class B license, victular liquor amusement, and a new state restaurant, Class 1, 2, 3, 4 liquor license, malt, spirituous, and vinous. Any comments from council? Public hearing is now open. Someone here representing Betty's Hilltop House. Could you please stand and state your name?
Wayne Clark.
All right, thank you for being here. We appreciate that. We require you to be here when it's a new license, and thank you for accepting our invitation.
Happy to do it.
Anyone have questions? Anybody like to know more about the new restaurant?
Yes. Where are you located, and tell us a
We're
little
going
bit
to be
about it.
located at the former Ellsworth Ale House, which used to be the Hilltop House.
Mhm.
Planning on reopening as a family-style restaurant, steak, seafood, lunch and dinner.
Great. Good. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, public hearing is closed.
Mr.
Council
Chairman-
action.
Mr. Chairman, move approval of Betty's Hilltop House for the license requests.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Do you want to know the menu or anything of that nature? No?
We sat here before the meeting, Mr. Chairman, and John has got a ribeye medium rare ordered already, and I've got onion rings,
Good,
so
great.
sounds like an excellent family fare restaurant.
It does.
Wish him well.
All those in favor? And that's unanimous. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Moving on to item 12, Council Order Number 021502, request of the Economic Development Director to provide additional funding to the Ellsworth Business Development Corporation, EBDC, broadband expansion project, and to approve a lease of property for the broadband head-end facility. I'll call on the Economic Development Director.
Good evening.
Good evening.
First of all, I want to thank you, because as you all know, it's been like a year and a half of working on this project. So on behalf of the whole board, and I do have Lily Pugh here, Chairman of the Board Broadband Committee, and Tony McKim, a board member of our EBDC. So, as you know, board members of the Ellsworth Business Development Corporation have been working diligently on a project to bring affordable, high-speed internet to the city of Ellsworth. Over the past year, the EBDC applied for and received a $250,000 Northern Border Regional Commission grant, a highly competitive, multi-state grant to building broadband infrastructure in the downtown area. With the use of both private and public funding, EBDC hired Tilson, a technology company located in Portland, to provide a broadband analysis plan and network design to the city. This plan, which you were provided with earlier, outlined the need for broadband within the city's borders and a current and future network design that can provide the broadband coverage. The EBDC committee is asking the city council to review the broadband plan, provide gap funding for the broadband project in the amount of $28,445, and to lease EBDC the property for the head-end shelter. At this time, I think it is really important that I introduce Andrew Hamilton, the counsel for EBDC, and the Tilson representatives, because they will begin the presentation now, which will really help you understand every step we've taken and will take.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mickey, members of the council. It is our pleasure to be here this evening. I'm going to introduce the Tilson team momentarily, but I think we should all pause and say thank you to two public officials, to Mickey Sumter as Economic Development Director and to Michelle Beal as City Manager. And for that matter, to the Council Chair, Bob Crosswaite, for his service on the EBDC board. It is a distinguished board, and there has been a lot of hard work. This is but one project of the Ellsworth Business Development Corporation. We'll be speaking very briefly. Jeff assures me it can be done in 60 seconds about the incubator, which will have more time at a later date. So at this time, I would just like to acknowledge Lily Pugh's efforts as chair of the EBDC Broadband Committee, and Jeff Spalding, who's been working hard on the incubator committee. Thanks also in absentia to Jeff Letourneau from the University of Maine, who, like me, recommended Tilson as a consultant in this area. Tilson, for instance, is consulting with the town of Islesboro on broadband. And so it stretches far across the land here in Maine, but it's important to have a consultant that is really conversant with design in this area. So I would like to, at this time, just by show of hands, if I could initially, and then they'll have a chance to address you, Aaron Paul and Liza Quinn of Tilson, and most importantly, Terry Turner, who oversees the make-ready work to make sure that the connections between the fiber in the city and the facilities are in effect. So first, a core term that we're going to use tonight. Some of you know Kobe as Kobe Bryant. The Kobe we're going to refer to as community-owned broadband infrastructure. And so as we go through these slides, keep Kobe in mind, if you would. So a little bit of background. In the second quarter of 2014, as Mickey was suggesting, this effort's been underway for a bit. With the support from the city and Tilson, EBDC applied for and won a Northern Border Regional Commission grant to support the incubator ecosystem. And some of the industries that we're focusing on as part of the incubator and broadband efforts include bioscience and healthcare, education, IT, food, and food service. In the third to fourth quarter, Tilson developed a broadband plan on network design and cost estimation for the EBDC and city. To give tribute again to Mickey Sumter, during this time she also made an application for a grant to the Maine Community Foundation, which was awarded. Made application to the Maine Technology Institute, awarded on the incubator side. So broadband has been one effort, but Mickey's been hard at work on the incubator side as well. So what was Tilson doing during this time frame? Working with us to develop broadband-related goals, a network, the inventory, and look at CapEx and operational expense items associated with the system. These capital expenses and operating expenses have been included in the design of the system. And in the first quarter of 2015, EBDC and Tilson recommended a nucleus network that we refer to as the COBE to make the best use of a $250,000 capital budget as part of the NBRC grant. The appropriation that's been requested tonight is but a small portion of the $250,000 that's already been awarded beyond the city of Ellsworth. So again, COBE is community-owned broadband infrastructure. I just want to use that term because I think that there's two keys to this. There's already broadband that exists in the city today. You have both wires on poles
and you have fiber underground. And there are opportunities to light that up more. We have what we call dark fiber that has not been lit up for use in the city. Dark fiber is good in that it represents potential. It's a challenge in that it's not being effectively used. And so one of the questions we have is how do we more effectively use the dark fiber? So the proposal that's going to be detailed more by Aaron and by Eliza is to take a mile either side of the existing three-ring binder fiber that you already have in ground in Ellsworth, and essentially go out towards the Boggy Brook Business Park and go out High Street East towards the base of the hill nearer in the vicinity of Lowe's. The core infrastructure is to be shared among future service providers by essentially priming the pump and lowering their cost to get more infrastructure into the city. You give the internet service providers the opportunity to look more fondly on your community than other communities, and that's key, we think, for Ellsworth. We're looking for near-term connectivity to 2 incubator locations, specifically the downtown Main Street area, and second, 2 segments of High Street. Again, that segment of High Street between the business park at Boggy Brook and the Mill Mall location, and then High Street from the intersection out to the vicinity of Lowe's and the new Jack's facility. Although Jack's is already connected with fiber, it is really important to provide the spin-off opportunities that would come with broadband. And I want to speak to that just momentarily. Businesses and institutions, including telecommunicating individuals, need high-speed data transfer and video conferencing. That's a need in the new economy. These specific incubator businesses that the city is going to look to attract as part of the incubator will complement existing businesses and both educational and research and development facilities in the area. Everything from the schools, the local schools, to Jackson Laboratories, MDI Biolabs. There will be future add-on potential at lower incremental costs. And what we're really looking to do is provide, again, the base infrastructure, a platform from which you can project more opportunity for existing businesses and new businesses as part of the new economy. Think of an incubator as a center for high-growth technology companies, each of which will have a strong interest in the community-owned broadband infrastructure or COBE facilities. So if we could pause just briefly, I'm going to ask Jeff Spalding to come up and speak briefly to the incubator and then come back briefly to introduce Aaron Paul.
Thank you, Andy. I'm going to keep this short and sweet, as Andy mentioned. I'm Jeff Spalding. Andy is a colleague of mine. I'm a corporate attorney at Eaton Peabody. I also have a very large technology companies practice. I grew up in Belfast, but I spent a significant amount of time in Boston working in the venture capital arena. So I have kind of a unique perspective on both the challenges that we have in Maine and some of the potential for opportunities that we also have. So what are those challenges, especially when it comes to growing technology companies here? With all due respect, we Mainers are fiercely independent. We like to go our own way, we like to do our own thing. Not exactly the best ingredient for building the next generation of growth companies. We are all geographically dispersed in Maine. It's not a problem unique to Maine, but it makes it difficult to connect with each other. It makes it difficult to figure out what's going on. There are these pockets in the state where we are doing already very interesting things. But a lot of times we don't know about them. And lastly, again, not a challenge unique to Maine, the decline and in some cases the reinvention of old industries. I think that last point in particular is where the center of the opportunity lies here. Unless we meet that challenge, the imagination of what the new economy could be in this region, and put some effort behind that, we risk being left behind. So, again, in terms of my perspective on this, I think a lot of people think, Maine can't build growth tech companies. I'll tell you from the time I spent in Boston, particularly in this region, our people are not inferior. Our companies are not inferior. We have world-class technology here. We have some of the finest research institutions, all of whom are partnered with us on this incubator effort. Jackson Lab, University of Maine, now Desert Island Biological Laboratory. World-class partners. Interest already from 8 growth technology companies that want to co-locate in this space. Building investment potential, particularly, in particular, angel investment potential. Again, an array of top-level partners. And finally, laying the groundwork for key infrastructure that's going to make this thing succeed, namely community-owned broadband infrastructure. In short, the key building blocks of a technology hub and the next generation of growth within our reach. More to come on this later. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Always keep him interested, Jeff. Jeff heads up our Ellsworth office practice for Eaton Peabody, and his wife works at Jax, and he does a lot of work with the university and with investors in Portland, and I think he's uniquely positioned to help the EBDC effort. Let's go to this next slide as I prepare to introduce Aaron Paul from Tilson. So you have something many communities in Maine don't have. You have existing broadband infrastructure in Ellsworth that is relatively robust, but does not yet connect residents and businesses to the fiber. It is what we call the last mile problem. In the information superhighway parlance, you have the superhighway already with the 3-ring binder, which is shown on this diagram. But you need the off-ramp and the local road to take you to the new office building. The office building is like the Kobe shelter. And so with that preview of coming attractions, I'll introduce Aaron Paul from Tilson. Take it away, Aaron.
Thank you, Andy. So my name's Aaron Paul. I'm a broadband consultant at Tilson, and we work with municipalities in Maine and mostly New England to reach their economic development goals utilizing technology. We try and find the technology option that best meets those goals. Andy and Nikki engaged us last June saying, we want to make this incubator real, and from what we hear, bandwidth is what we need. And so given that, where do we go? This map shows a very robust asset that happens to run through Ellsworth called the 3-ring binder. And as Andy alluded to, this is like a public superhighway. Anyone can use it at very low cost. And it enables users in the area to get all the bandwidth they could possibly need at the lowest potential price. So what we designed, this is a very high level diagram, is a 2-mile fiber run connecting 2 incubator locations to start with, as well as a shelter facility for ISPs to locate in and provide competitive service to businesses that set up shop in Commerce Park and Mill Mall, while also providing the option to grow further in future years. Future expansion, as Andy alluded to, includes Jackson Labs farther to the south and other incubator locations to the north. And with that, I'm going to introduce my colleague Liza Quinn, who's going to talk a little bit about the business modeling behind this.
Okay, great. I'm Liza Quinn. Thanks for having me. I work with Aaron. And so Aaron's done a nice job of showing, let me go back, what the city would get for $278,000, $250,000 of which would be paid for by this grant, which is that off-ramp to the superhighway. And the city would not be the internet access provider. It would not be the entity providing internet access to the businesses in those 2 incubator locations. We're talking about establishing a business-to-business network. And so, day one, what would happen with this COBE, this community-owned broadband network, is that an ISP would come in, an internet service provider, and it would locate its, I keep getting the arrows in the wrong direction, its gear in that shelter that we're talking about building, and I can show you a picture of that later. It's in the appendix of your presentation. And it would put a network here in that shelter and provide services to the businesses in those 2 incubator locations in Commerce Park and Mill Mall. So day one, what the community would get is an optical provider in Commerce Park, optical internet access, so fast internet access that would enable businesses to do things over the internet that they can't do today in those locations. And it would have optical competition in Mill Mall. Now, my understanding in Mill Mall, there is dark fiber that's lit there now, but it's actually providing the University of Maine extension services. So I actually don't think it's, my understanding, is available to the other businesses in Maine Mall. So this would actually be an optical provider also, where there is none in Mill Mall. And it would also presumably provide lower prices. Now, we have one analog in Rockport. You may have seen some of the press. GWI is providing services over a network very similar to the COBE in Rockport. And they're offering $200 a month for 100 megabits per second upload and 100 megabits per second download. That's very, very fast internet access. It's twice as fast as what we have in our office in Portland, actually, for a lower price, slightly lower price than what we're paying for in Portland. So presumably they would get fast speeds, lower prices, if this worked the way we hope it would. No guarantees that they would have the same offer in Ellsworth. And beyond day one, what we hope this network would do is it would provide competition to other locations where there is no broadband competition today. Time Warner basically has a monopoly for the highest speeds in town outside of University of Maine locations and some locations like the town hall right here that have sort of special network arrangements. And it would also provide high-speed broadband in areas where it's previously unavailable. So there are some areas of Ellsworth today where DSL is the only thing on offer. And DSL is today's dial-up. So DSL is not fast enough to run most of today's applications. I don't know, how many of you have DSL at home? None of you. So you all live somewhere where you have Time Warner access, yeah. So, and most likely how that would be provided would be with a wireless service, and this network would help enable a wireless provider to establish that service at a lower cost than they otherwise would be able to. So some sample prices that we have. We have the $200 per month for 100 megabits per service, bits per second in Rockport that we know about. And I've been told that the Maine Coast Memorial Hospital here in town got a quote from a provider for 1 gigabit per second optical service. I don't know what the monthly recurring charge was. I'm guessing it was about $10,000 a month, so 10 times as fast as that 100 megabit per second. But the non-recurring cost, just to build the fiber out to that location, was $90,000. So today, prices are pretty high. It's a real barrier for businesses, some businesses in Ellsworth, to get these high speeds. So what is the value proposition to the service providers? Because again, this is going to be a business-to-business network, so you've got to recruit service providers to come in, put their electronics in the shelter, connect to the 3-ring binder, and connect to customers. And so it's an ecosystem of carriers and customers. And so network owners like to interconnect with each other, and they tend to flock together. and buildings, and they also like to have, obviously, access to customers. So it would obviously be proximity and access to Ellsworth users. So in those businesses that Andy talked about, bioscience, healthcare, IT, education, food and food service, and residential users. And as I drove along Route 3 on where the day one network would be, and then where the expanded network is proposed to be down towards Jackson Labs and Lowe's, I mean, it would also be access to those businesses along the way. And it would also offer these carriers access to the three-ring binder. Again, it's the superhighway. It's how these service providers would get the traffic to the backbone of the internet, which is actually in Boston. So how they would get the traffic all the way down to Boston before sending it over to Europe or to the West Coast or wherever. And then it would also allow them to interconnect with each other. So carriers like to interconnect to each other because they're customers of each other oftentimes. And also when they interconnect with each other, it gives their network robustness and resiliency. So in case there's a problem with their own network, they can connect to somebody else and the traffic will still go through. And another example too could be a wireless provider is connected to the main fiber company. They might have their tower near the shelter and then put that traffic that goes from the customers and goes wirelessly to a tower, then on to the internet backbone. And it would, the value proposition is not only the proximity to other carriers and customers, but lower costs. So by sharing this infrastructure, they're lowering their costs of establishing service. They would be sharing space, power, backup power, and connectivity in the shelter. And they would have access to customers without hanging their own cable, which is expensive, and we'll get to that in another slide. So owning this network comes with both the benefits and responsibilities of ownership. Now, because it's a wholesale model, there are fewer costs involved, but there's also lower upside. So lower downside, lower upside, but there are costs involved. So there are annual operating costs, pole attachment fees. For these 2 miles, we estimate it's about $2,700 a year. And that's a yearly fee you pay to the pole owner. Then there's maintenance for repairing the fiber when it goes down or just some annual maintenance. There are also administrative costs. Somebody's got to pay the bills. Somebody's got to work with the maintenance provider. So we estimate that's about $5,000 a year. And then there's the cost of marketing. You need to recruit internet service providers, and you need to negotiate the deal for using the infrastructure. And again, we estimate that's about $15,000 a year. It would probably go down over time as providers get established. So then, if you want to expand your network, that is going to cost money too. And
note of observation is that
Yeah.
in the grants, we prepaid for maintenance for 2 years.
Yeah. Oh, great. Thank you, Erin. So that's an important detail. So lateral builds. If you want to expand your fiber route, that's about $1.50 to $2.50 per foot, per linear foot. But again, that's shared infrastructure. It's only built once, and then providers can come in and use that. If you want to build a tower on your site, that has a very wide range. It can be from $50,000 for a really tall telephone pole to $250,000, something that looks more like a cell tower. And then there's the pole attachment fees, which would be OpEx, additional OpEx of $800 to $1,300 per mile per year. It just depends how many poles are in a mile. So this is hypothetical. So what are the conceptual operating margins? Well, this network would likely have a negative operating margin for a couple of years. So the maintenance is prepaid for 2 years. Mm-hmm. But we think if you include the maintenance, it would take 3 to 5 years before it generates a positive operating margin. So you guys can look at this at your own time, but we have a hypothetical number of fiber pairs that are leased, how many racks in the shelter are being leased, how many tower tenants you have on the network. And of course, the operating costs would go up along with revenues, but not proportionally. So you would have those economies of scale as the network grew. So what does running a network require? I mean, this is an entrepreneurial venture somewhat for a city. So what's involved? The first is billing and administration. You would likely bill your customers monthly. And who would do that? Well, maybe the city would do it directly, or maybe a network operator. And the network operator could be the EBDC, or it could be a subcontractor, like the Maine Fiber Company, or the Maine Com, or Tilson. And so that the city could either be the manager and the underlying provider, or it could be just the manager and the underlying provider could be the network operator, or network operator could do that. Fiber inventory. Somebody needs to keep track of which fiber is running from where to where, being consumed by what customer. So that's involved too. Marketing. So you would need to recruit and negotiate with ISPs coming in. But again, it wouldn't be marketing to the end user. It would be to the service providers. Maintenance. So maintenance is almost always outsourced, and the day-to-day manager, again, could be the city or the network operator, but there are utility service companies out there, like On Target, that will fix a break in the fiber or provide routine maintenance. And you can have them on retainer, or you can pay them by incident, so that arrangement varies. And then there's network expansion, because you will want to expand this network, and prospective customers will ask the city to have this network expanded. So that's something that would be managed by the network operator or the city, but then an underlying network services contractor would actually build those fiber extensions. And then this appendix, we have a few slides that we've prepared just in anticipation of questions. But this one I do want to point out, and this is a sample shelter of the type that would be located where the shelter was on the map, which is actually where the pump station is along the river. So anyway, so that's the only one I really wanted to draw your attention to. But I think Aaron and Andy and I are here to answer, and Terry, any questions that you may have, and the rest of the bunch too.
If I might, I think we also, in addition to the folks who were in the room, they said in Wizard of Oz, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. I think you should pay very good attention to the man behind your curtain. Jason Ingalls provides great service to the city of Ellsworth, and he's provided some excellent guidance to us. So together with Jeff, who's here in Ellsworth, Jason is right here in Ellsworth. And so, again, infrastructure is a function of what you have now and what you hope to provide. You've got quite a robust system right here in City Hall. So wanted to recognize all that you have, and again, happy to answer any questions you may have. It was a pretty thorough presentation. You may not have a lot of questions, but totally, the floor is yours.
Councilor Fortier.
I agree. I thought it was a very thorough presentation. And it sounds like a foolish question, but are we going to be able to match the outside of this structure with the outside of the pump station so it doesn't stand out like a sore thumb as far as brick colors and stuff like that? So it's almost like a little campus down there?
These structures are precast concrete. They're all of one piece pretty much, so that keeps them weather tight. And this is just one manufacturer, and this is it wouldn't have this door on there. It wouldn't have that one door. probably can't stray too far from what this looks like. But you take the door out, and it's gonna match your shelter somewhat. I mean, that's probably as close as you can get. Without going, you know, stick built on site, which would be prohibitively expensive.
Anyone else?
Exciting.
Mr. Chairman,
Counselor?
the maintenance cost estimated at $1,200. Is that a realistic number?
For 2 miles of fiber. So that number's based on experience with networks that range from a mile to several thousand miles. It was deduced on historical trends on a per mile basis. So that's what we've seen from the field.
Okay, thank you.
So, we're either going to need to pay someone here at the city to do the running of the network, or we can contract it out. Is that captured in this operating margins layout in terms of how much that would cost to have that person? Or how much time is going to be required of that person? Is that a full-time gig, or?
So the operating costs presume a model where the city outsources this to something we describe in the report as a tactical vendor. And this is just someone who manages these networks all day long, contract basis, on an hourly, potentially cost plus fixed margin compensation basis. So this assumes that it's outsourced, and it doesn't fall to the desk of a city employee.
And that's in this
Yes.
breakdown?
It's in, right?
Yes, that's in there.
Just to bring a little bit of levity to this, Jason Ingalls made clear to us that he does not have another full-time job in terms of opportunity. So we're making sure that it's in the proposal and that it's contemplated.
Okay.
Yes, Lily.
So,
Step right up to the microphone because we're taping and you're also going to have a chance to be on TV.
so I have a question to the Tilson group that may help the council and anyone else who's watching. Can you talk a little bit about, in the work that you did, about the understanding of the existing opportunities in Ellsworth, where there are gaps, and what the future vision of where broadband can go, both for business but also potentially for residential, to help some of the areas like Surrey, like around Graham Lake, some of the areas which are in the black hole of technology right now?
That's a good question.
And one of the reasons that I'm asking that is that with all of the new businesses which are going to be coming to Ellsworth, and the future of this city has a very, very bright future. There may be technology at offices, but there will be many home-based people that will need to have that access. And with being a full-time realtor, the number one question that I get asked in my day job is, do I have access to high-speed broadband? And people will make a decision about whether to move to this area based on broadband.
Fantastic. So
Thank you, Lily. It's good.
So we looked at, in the report, we looked at 2 items, really. Servicing the incubator is the first one. That's what the grant was won for. The grant was won before the report was written. And the second component is improving residential broadband in areas that have weak broadband currently. And we had one of our field technicians survey service offerings in the town, and we prepared this map. So the purple lines here, these show where you can get cable. This is Time Warner Cable's coaxial network. Any house along that can connect and get decent speed. But there are a lot of houses that can't. Around Branch Lake, Graham Lake, and Green Lake, out on the road towards Surrey, there's more towards Surrey as well. We didn't look at it because it's not part of Ellsworth. And an inexpensive way to service that is with a technology called 4G LTE, which is identical to what is on most smartphones. And that can provide speeds that are 5, 10, 20 times faster than what they currently have. and that meet the new federal definition of broadband. And this is a lot cheaper than fiber, and it's deployed wirelessly. One way to do this would be to have a simple like utility pole near the Kobe that could interface with towers around the area to provide service to these customers. And there are companies based in Maine who do just this.
I just comment a little bit further, just to build on what Aaron said. Ellsworth is fortunate. I do work in the area of permitting tower sites across Maine. Ellsworth is blessed by having good towers in place already. So his LTE solution is very realistic given the infrastructure you have in the city now.
Councilor Forty.
And that was going to be my question. Could we send that signal from the hut to an existing tower space and not have to put an ugly tower on the waterfront? Could we push it through the fiber?
That's exactly correct.
Okay, thank you.
Good. Vicki,
Come back and
I'm
do
not
the begging.
talking
state your name for the record.
Very technical, but I am going to let you know that as all of this will be occurring, my part will be looking for additional funding too. So it's not always going to be dropped and say, okay, city, here we are. You know, the EBDC and I will be looking to see if there is any actual funding out there and what we can do to, you know, to really support this. So it isn't always going back to the city or the taxpayers.
Thank you.
Are there like case studies of other communities that have done this and had success with providers coming in? I mean, how confident are we that the providers are going to come and utilize this and set up shop and become competitive? Like if we build all of this, and will they come?
You could coin that phrase.
So we've had interest from 5 providers in locating in this specific network, in this specific facility. The terms haven't been decided. It's very high level, but they hear about it. They hear that it has access to Ellsworth. They hear it has access to the incubator, and they're interested in co-locating there.
Are there other communities in Maine that are doing the same thing that have been successful? Or are we?
This is very analogous to what's happening in Rockport and South Portland. They're very early in the network lifespan, less than 6 months. But there are also many successful networks throughout the country that see improved economic growth, higher incidence of successful startups, more effective attraction to venture capital, all kinds of high-value economic indicators like that. Yes, sir.
Is this something that multiple ISPs can take advantage of, or is it limited to an individual ISP?
It's a good question. It's something that multiple ISPs can take advantage of. It works best the more ISPs you have there, the more customers they have access to.
Thank you.
They call that open something?
Open access.
Open access.
Correct. That's how the 3-ring binder works. There are something like 25 ISPs that operate on this or have the ability to operate on it. And so all of those have the ability to operate in Ellsworth as well.
Levy, you want to add?
So one of the, I really appreciate Councilor Perkins asking that question, because when we first began this project a year and a half ago, one of the things that interested me more than anything, beyond my passion and my enthusiasm for the city of Ellsworth and what opportunities we have, is that I was following the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times, article after article after article about small rural communities around the country that basically have been transformed because of what has been done with becoming a gigabyte community. So there are models all over the country, this is not that we're the first to do this. We are keeping pace with what other communities are doing across the country and in the state of Maine. And Tilson, being our lead consultant on that, is really giving us assurance that this is going to be successful. So, thank you.
And thank you.
I think we may want to be preparing those signs on the city's boundaries, you know, we are a gigabyte
There you go.
community.
And business friendly.
Yeah, and business friendly.
Well, good for
yeah.
business.
Yeah. You know, we've been talking about this kind of development, and specifically broadband, for a number of years now. And it's pretty exciting to all of a sudden find ourselves right on the cusp. And I think we all know that, you know, what the advantages are of having this.
We had the conversation earlier at the table, a couple of us, and I have to agree with the outcome of that conversation that this is a more important thing to have in the city than natural gas right now. I mean, this is going to be a utility that is going to help us really go ahead.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Anything else to add, or anyone want to?
That's all we have.
Anyone want to expand? That seems to be the catchword tonight. Council?
Mr. Chairman,
Councilor Forty.
move to approve the request of the EBDC board to lease a 24 by 40 parcel of land for $1 per year for 99 years, located next to the Water Street Pump Station, map 134, lot 179, and to provide funding to EBDC for the broadband infrastructure project in the amount of $28,445 to be funded from the Economic Development TIF program.
Second.
Moved and second. Further discussion? All those in favor? It's unanimous.
Good work, Nikki. Light up that fiber.
Just 3 words for you. Get to work. Let's take a momentary break while folks resettle. Thank you. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you very much.
We'll have the room again.
Well, that cleared the room a little.
Staff. Staff and
Just the
press.
right wing.
You realize how much an hour just walked out the door? Congratulations.
The replacement.
Yeah, his husband did.
Boy, I don't know. What was the timeline for having this useful,
You did.
up and running?
First year.
First,
I missed you last
One
month.
year to get it into.
Yeah.
so by this time next year,
And the meetings with attorneys are going to be so
everything
boring.
works.
Okay, we'll continue. I just want to say a word of thanks to everybody for your input there and your support of that project. I know the Development Commissioner, the board, has been working real hard, and this is something that, as they see it coming to fruition, it is exciting, and I think it's going to be a huge positive step for the city. So I think we took a real leap here tonight, and I appreciate your support of it. Item 13, Council Order Number 021503, request of the city manager to appoint a representative and alternate to the Main Service Center Coalition. It almost sounds like the city manager wants to make the appointment.
No, I'm just saying that's who was here.
I
Last
see.
year, it was John Phillips and Counselor Phillips and Counselor Blanchett as the alternate. If they are willing to do it again, I think that would be fabulous, but
Yeah, I bet you do.
Good. There's rumor has it it's at least one meeting a year.
There you go. I'm hearing no dissenting vote.
And since I would be the alternate, then John would be going to the meeting.
So,
See what I can do about that.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
resolved to appoint Council John Phillips as a representative to the Main Service Center Coalition and to appoint Councilor Mark Blanchett as the alternate. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none? All in favor? Unanimous.
You've been reelected.
Item 14, council order number 021504, request of the Public Works Director to purchase a two-wheel drive regular cab work truck for the Water Department. Mr. Wilson.
High tech. Good evening, everybody. Again, we went up bid for a new water company truck, two-wheel drive. The existing truck, if you approve this one tonight, the existing truck will be moved to the highway department for them to have a truck that can run around, get spare parts and stuff in. We do every year. We did go out to bid and we had 3 come back. We did send it to Varney's and Quirk's, but they didn't bid on it. As you can see, down in Chevrolet of Ellsworth was the lowest bid for a 2015 Chevy Silverado 1500 at $20,774.61. Down in Gala Mall with a 2015 GMC Sierra 1500 was $21,459. And down in Ford with a 2015 Ford F-150 was $21,858. It's my recommendation that we go with the lower bid down in Chevrolet of Ellsworth for $20,774.61.
I noticed that the Ford was the only one that offered like, Bluetooth hands-free connectivity, while the other 2 had 5-year as a powertrain warrant, 5-year 60,000 miles warranties, and the Ford only had 3-year 36,000. Is Bluetooth anything that would be desirable in a truck like this?
Not really. Not only that, the truck can have that warranty work and everything and travel back and forth to Bangor. It's not worth it.
Yeah. Well, it's, yeah, the warranties are better with the 2 GM vehicles.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we've had very good luck with our, we only get asked for 6 cylinders in need. We've had excellent luck with the work on them. We get very little trouble with them, to tell you the truth. Once in a while we have a transmission goes, but who doesn't?
How long have we had the other, the one that we're sending out to the highway department?
I knew you were going to ask that, and I should have known how long. That's the oldest one we've got. I would say we've got it 10 years.
10 years. And you still got some
We
life
usually
left in
keep
it.
10 years on our trucks before we trade them.
Yeah.
8 to 10, gone to the mileage. That one now has got around 80 or 90,000 miles on it. It's still a good truck.
Yeah.
You know, but we use, going back and forth the lake, it's 6 miles out, 6 miles back. Make 2 or 3 trips a day. It doesn't take long to wrap up mileage on the truck.
Well, sooner or later, some of those old trucks have to be finally put to sleep.
Well, when we put them to sleep, they're asleep.
Yeah.
They go up on a flat bed and they get picked off with a forklift.
Yeah.
That's how bad they are.
Other questions?
Yeah, you
Councilor
said you did request bids from Quirk and also Varney.
Yes. and
They
never
did
sent
not
them.
return or did not come in at 9?
Nothing came in.
Which is fine. I'm good with Darlings.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Ready for a motion, ready for action?
Mr. Chairman, move to approve the
Request to award the purchase of the
Go ahead.
That was stereo for a minute.
Go ahead, John.
I was going to say it's John speaking, but
Maybe I'll turn the right one on.
it was John.
New 2015 Chevrolet Silverado 1500 half-ton two-wheel drive pickup is specified for the water department to the lowest bidder. Darling Chevrolet at a cost of $20,774.61 to be paid for through the water department capital improvement account.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Second. Moved and seconded. Further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Are you in favor?
Abstaining.
Councilor Beetham or abstaining?
Abstain.
Abstain. So 6, 0, and 1 abstention. Thank you. Item 15, public hearing and action on council order number 021505, an order authorizing the issuance of up to $200,000 of the city's general obligation bonds and notes in anticipation thereof to finance additional costs related to the renovations, furnishing, and equipping of the Moore Community Center.
Good evening.
Ms. Moak.
So the city will be holding a public bond sale for multiple projects, including the permanent financing of the Moore Community Center Bond Anticipation Note, or BAN. In March of 2014, the City Council had initially authorized the issuance of up to $4.6 million for the actual construction of the Moore Community Center. However, it didn't account for the cost to actually furnish and equip those public areas within the Moore Community Center, and it did not include the BAN interest amount that will be rolled into the permanent financing of the total bond. The city manager and myself, we had come to the finance committee and we had asked them how we'd like to handle that. We did receive some pricing, and therefore I'm here now asking for the additional monies needed for the furnishings as well as the BAN interest. I did include in your packet of information the additional needs for that. Also, I wanted to explain at the initial time of the public hearing notification deadline, I did request $200,000. Those numbers have been reduced to $150,000 necessary. Yeah.
You said the community center and other things?
For the BAN interest, we borrowed the $4.6 million, so an amount of money, $26,000, was BAN interest that we'd have to pay when we pay the BAN back. So we're going to roll that into the permanent financing.
My question was going to be, you mentioned that for the money that we're going to vote on was for the leftover things for the community center and other things. Did you mean
the
that?
next three items on the agenda, Council Moore?
Okay.
Oh, yes, I have
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
She's not done.
I have 3 more items after this particular.
Right. So in this particular one, the authorization will be for $150,000.
That's correct.
Just to set the record. I'll open the
All right,
public hearing.
that's what I wanted to know.
Okay.
This $150,000 is specifically for?
For the Moore Community Center.
Oh, okay. I needed to ask that question a little bit better, I think.
Sorry.
Okay, public hearing is open. Anyone care to weigh in on this, ask questions, or make comments? Public hearing is closed. Council action.
Mr. Chairman, move to authorize an issuance of up to $150,000 of the city's general obligation bonds to finance additional costs related to the renovations, furnishing, and equipping of the Moore Community Center, and also authorize Council Order Number 021505 per the attached written order.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor? It's unanimous. Item 16, public hearing and action on Council Order Number 021506, an order authorizing the issuance of up to $850,000 of the city's general obligation bonds and notes in anticipation thereof to finance improvements to Knowlton Park.
So in September of 2014, the City Council had accepted a proposal from Atlantic Landscape for the construction of the Knowlton Park. Approximately half of the project is going to be paid for through pledges, grants, and donations. The remaining $816,500 will need to be borrowed through a public bond sale that we're going to be doing at the end of this month. That annual principal and interest payments on this $850,000 bond will be paid for through future TIF revenues, as explained back in the September council meeting. Jim Safian, the city's bond counsel, had recommended authorizing $850,000 to cover the cost of issuance of the bonds and legal fees, and it allows for a little bit of flexibility when it comes to the actual borrowing, and then it wouldn't need to come back to council for additional funding if needed, or authorization if needed. So this kind of covers us. It's not going to be that much.
All right. Any comments before the public hearing? Public hearing is now open. Anyone wish to comment on item number 16? Public hearing is closed. Council action.
Mr. Chairman, move to authorize an issuance of up to $850,000 of the city's general obligation bonds to finance a portion of the Knowlton Park project, and also authorize council order number 021506 per the attached written order.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
Just
Councilor Moore?
one question. Can we presume that there will be continuing efforts to draw in more money from outside City
Oh,
Hall?
absolutely,
Yes,
absolutely.
yes.
We're still working on that.
Very good.
Yep.
So when you say up to $850,000, you're anticipating it to be less
Yes,
than 850?
yes.
This also protects us from having to come back because almost always it seems like there's overruns.
No further questions? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you. Item number 17, public hearing and action on Council Order number 021507, an order authorizing the issuance of up to $800,000 of the city's general obligation bonds and notes in anticipation thereof to finance the acquisition of vehicles, furniture, fixtures, and equipment, software and hardware, and other technology improvements, other facilities and field improvements for the Ellsworth schools, and to pay or reimburse miscellaneous one-time costs relating to the separation from RSU 24.
So, back during the 2015 budget workshops, the City Council had decided to fund the newly created Ellsworth School Department with one-time costs associated with withdrawal. Costs included the amounts that were due to the RSU according to the withdrawal agreement. It includes vehicles, the equipment, software, IT hardware. Actually included a list of things that, in those prices, as part of the council packets. So this item is only for the authorization, and it's not going to be part of this public sale that we're coming up to because we're waiting for the audit from the RSU to determine if we're going to need to borrow that much money. So what we'll do later on in the year is to go to a local bank for financing if we need it. This is just kind of getting the authorization out of the way.
Is this finally the end of the RSU for us? Because it seems like there's been a lot of one-time only costs.
Yes.
Oh, hallelujah.
I'll second that one.
All right, I'm going to open the public hearing. Anyone care to comment on this item, item number 17? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Council, what's your wish on this?
Mr. Chairman, move to authorize the issuance of up to $800,000 of the city's general obligation bonds to finance acquisition of vehicles, furniture, fixtures, and equipment, software and hardware, and other technology improvements, other facilities and field improvements for Ellsworth schools, and to pay or reimburse miscellaneous one-time costs relating to the separation from RSU 24, and to authorize Council Order 021507 for the attached written order.
Second.
I get another
Move in second. Discussion. Councilor Moore?
Did we get all the money that we were supposed to get from the RSU as part of the agreement? Seems to me that we were waiting for certain monies to come our way.
We will be getting that in very soon. So Friday, we did receive an audit, and so we get 32.85% of the undesignated fund balance, and we're looking at a substantial more than what we had expected.
You had a ballpark figure.
1.9 million.
About 1.9.
And we had estimated 1.2.
I think it's important to mention that at this juncture.
It's like 1.866 or
Right,
something
so
like
that's
that.
right.
You want to say that again real loud?
So that again would bring this number down.
Correct.
Right. No?
Well, it could.
It could.
It could.
Could. I mean, you're going to want a fund balance for that school department.
That's true. That's
So-
true.
So that was going to help.
The
us
other
as well.
thing is too, is I know that we give the school department the money to operate, but the one-time cost, I think it's $300 and some thousand, that will be in the school department's budget to pay that debt service back to us. They'll be budgeting for that, not the city, but they obviously can't borrow on their own. So.
They would do that over time, or?
Yes.
How would they do that? Yeah.
Yeah.
And those are the types of things that we were going to be working through this year during the budget workshops.
Yeah. All right, we have a motion. Any further discussion? All those in favor of item 17? Thank you, it's unanimous. Item number 18, public hearing and action on Council Order Number 021508, an order authorizing the issuance of up to $125,000 of the city's general obligation bonds and notes in anticipation thereof to finance accrued and unpaid interest related to the city's refunding of its Beachland Road Bond Anticipation Note and the 2012 USDA loans.
So this is two parts in this agenda item. So this is another project that will be part of the permanent financing package at the end of the month. Back in July 2014, the council had authorized $1.5 million bond anticipation note for the Beachland Road project. So the authorization, part of it is to authorize an additional $12,000, which is going to be interest on the bond anticipation note, which is going to be rolled into the permanent financing. The second part of this agenda item has to do with the wastewater's USDA bonds or loans that we borrowed money from the USDA. We borrowed at 3.5%. We're estimating that through the permanent financing, we're going to be able to receive an interest rate of 2.5%, which is approximately $900,000 savings over the life of those bonds. So it's very significant. So the additional money that needs to be authorized is the amount of money that is accrued on the interest from the last payment. So it's roughly $110,000. So we'll have to roll that into the bond as well. And that's what this authorization is for.
All right. Public hearing is now open. Anyone care to speak to this, item number 18? Seeing no one, public hearing is closed. Council action.
Mr. Chairman, move to authorize an issuance of up to $125,000 of the city's general obligation bonds to finance accrued and unpaid interest related to the city's refunding of its Beachland Road Bond Anticipation Note and its 2012 USDA loans, and to authorize Council Order Number 021508 per the attached written order.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you. And thank you, special thank you to the Finance Director. Appreciate that. Item number 19, public hearing and action on amendments to the City of Ellsworth Code of Ordinances, Chapter 7, Traffic Code, with the addition of Article 11. And we welcome Chief Coleman to the podium.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We would like to propose a permanent weight restriction on the Shore Road that would consist of Article 11 to Chapter 7 of the Traffic Code. If adopted, the article would prohibit any vehicle in excess of 36,000 pounds gross registered vehicle weight to travel on the Shore Road unless exempted. There are several exemptions to that weight restriction. Clearly, emergency vehicles would be exempted. Any vehicles that are delivering goods or services to residents on the Shore Road, or any residents or owner of a truck or trailer of that size who lives on the Shore Road would be exempted by this. If approved, we would put signs on both ends of the road to notify motorists of the restriction. We'd like to see that it's a permanent restriction, and that's due to both the type of road that the Shore Road is. It's wavy and curvy and hilly, unpaved shoulders, and also the uses of the road. It's used very often by pedestrians and runners and joggers, and it's really not a safe place for heavy trucks. I'd like to see that if you approve, that this would go into effect on April 1st, 2015, which would allow us to put the word out to the truckers that might seldom use that road.
All right. Counselor Forty.
This is especially important with the Route 1A project coming up, starting next fall, that we get people in the mindset that you can't use that road for detours with heavy trucks. Although we were going to do it temporarily anyway, I think this is a much better fix.
Right, the current plan with DOT for that detour is the shore road would be used or permissible for normal car traffic, and we hope to have some signage in place to direct heavy trucks out the Red Bridge Road for that period of time.
Or Cushion Ridge.
Oh, yes.
I think this makes sense. I think it makes good sense.
Agreed. Well, let's see what the public says. This is a public hearing. Anyone wish to comment? Seeing no one, public hearing is closed. Council, your action.
Mr. Chairman, move to approve the amendment to the City of Ellsworth Code of Ordinances, Chapter 7, Traffic Code, as presented in the attached document with an effective date of April 1st, 2015.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you, and thank you, Chief. Appreciate it. Item number 20, Council Order number 021509, request of the tax collector to offer for sale by sealed bid various properties that have been acquired for non-payment of real estate taxes, and I believe there's a complete list that's been provided.
Yeah, so the foreclosure date for the FY 2013 taxes was December 3rd, 2014. After that point, we send out a 30-day redemption letter, which states that all taxes, interest, and lien costs must be paid within 30 days to redeem the property. The list that you have is 203 timeshare units that went unpaid. So I'm just requesting to offer for sealed bid 203 timeshare units acquired for non-payment of real estate taxes.
Council questions? Councilor Perkins? No?
We've been through this already.
Council action.
Mr. Chairman, move to approve the Council Order 21509, request of the tax collector to offer for sale by sealed bid 203 timeshare units acquired for the non-payment of real estate taxes.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? How many does this make that we own now?
6,000.
I think we've
Have we hit
almost,
the world record yet?
we're almost majority stockholder in that resort.
At this point now, and once this is approved, it's 377.
377?
You could use that to negotiate with the sheriff.
If you're ready for the question, all those in favor? Unanimous. And I thank the tax collectors for being patient tonight, waiting till the 20th item. Item 21, Council Order number 021510, request of the Finance Director to award a lease agreement contract for harbor concessions at the Ellsworth Harbor. Harbor Commission Chairman Remick.
This is a result of an RFP that was sent out for replacement of the current vendor we have down there, which was Scoops. He has sold that building now. There were 2 responses. Of the 2, there was only one that really met the criteria that the commission had established, and that was a Robert Walters, DBA of Island Cow Ice Cream. He came with several recommendations. Those were included in your packet. Also the most favorable of the proposed rent, which was substantially higher than what the other RFP respondent had. So it is the recommendation by unanimous
vote of the commission to approve this one vendor. Just for a little bit of history, we had been discussing a second vendor down there. We backed away from that for a variety of reasons. One was the parking issue. The other one was the lack of competitive bids.
Right. Council, any questions, discussion on this?
I
Councilor
have
Moore?
just one observation in reading in the packet. Mr. Walters did provide somewhat of a sample of a menu. And I know that in the Harbor Commission meetings, one of the things that we had pretty much agreed on, that we would like to have a vendor that would expand the menu beyond what we've seen in the past. Do you get the feeling that Mr. Walters is going to do that, or is it going to be essentially another limited menu?
Well, he did propose a greater menu than what we've had. You know, although it's tough to beat a hot dog and an ice cream, Mr. Walters did a pretty good job, at least presenting that he is going to expand his menu.
Mm-hmm.
In review of the recommendations, I would have some confidence that that will happen.
Thank you.
And, Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
I did notice
Councilor.
on his menu that the soup du jour and a sandwich is not very appealing in a hot summer day, but some of those raw, damp days down there, I think, you know, that's another, just not an ice cream cone, it's a decent meal, so.
Baked ice cream.
Any further discussion? Entertain a motion?
Mr. Chairman, move towards the proposal from Robert Walters doing business as Island Cow Ice Cream for a vending concession stand at the Ellsworth Harbor at a price of $575 per month, and to authorize the city manager to sign the lease agreement.
Second. Moved and second, further discussion? All those in favor? And that's unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Remick. Item number 22, council order number 021511, request of the city planner to accept the proposal of BMC Planning for a senior housing study.
Yes, so this, I'm asking for this to be tabled this evening. We just received the loan proposal on June 30th, and by the time that we had a review, there wasn't enough time to take this to the Finance Committee, to present it to the Finance Committee before the council meeting, so we are asking for this to be tabled.
Mr. Chairman, move to table.
Second.
All in favor? Unanimous. Item 22 is tabled. Item number 24.
Move or remove it from the agenda. Withdraw my motion.
Item number 23. Council order number 021512, request to accept the resignation of the city manager. I believe all councilors have a copy of the resignation letter. You want to read that tonight, or
Do you want me to read it?
do you want me to read it? Do you want it just entered in the record as you presented it, or?
You're the chairman. I can read it, or you can read it, or whichever way you'd like. You'd like me to read it, wouldn't you? Yep.
I think for the public's sake, it would be good to hear.
I have to tell you, it was probably one of the most difficult letters I've read in a long time. Dear council members, I'm writing this letter to officially tender my resignation from my position as city manager of the city of Ellsworth. My last day of employment will be Friday, March 20th, 2015. The decision to leave was a difficult one. Being the city manager for municipalities such as Ellsworth has been a wonderful experience. The city is blessed with an engaged, forward-thinking council, dedicated city employees, businesses that are supportive, and residents that really care about the place that they live. I would like to thank the department heads and my administrative assistant Penny for all of their support. The degree of pride and dedication these employees have for this city are second to none. They have all made my job so much easier, and the next city manager will be lucky to have them as part of his or her team. And to all of the employees of the city, thank you for your commitment to making the city a great place to live. I would also like to thank the council for making my job such a wonderful one. As a council, you are truly caring and have a deep appreciation for this city and its citizens. Every decision you make and policy that you set is for the improvement of Ellsworth, and you should be commended for that. And finally, to all of the residents and business owners that I have worked with over the last 20 years, thank you. The projects and improvements we have worked on together would not have been successful without your support. I am moving on to a different career in a different city, but I will always be a part of Ellsworth. Sincerely, Michelle Beal.
Thank you, Michelle. Of course, this is not the letter that any of us wanted to receive. And I think that sentiment is shared by many citizens in Ellsworth, many, many, many people. And the letter is kind of indicative of your style, just thanking everybody else for doing a great job. But it takes a leader to instill that kind of cooperation and that kind of management. And that's the kind of leadership you've given, and we don't want that to go unnoticed. And so even though you're thanking everybody else, we want to take this opportunity to thank you. And certainly we're wishing you all the best as you move on to a different career in a different field, but just have that feeling that you're going to be keeping in touch, and as you said, you're not going to be that far away. And certainly your work, the body of your work is not going to be far away, because it's going to be seen in so many different places with the different projects that have been accomplished and the ones that are still in progress. So it's really been it's been our privilege as a council, and I think I can say on behalf of department heads to work with Michelle and to have you leading. And I made the statement a couple of weeks ago, it's okay to give the team credit, but the team has to have a leader, a captain, a coach, whatever we want to call you. But as a city manager, you have done absolutely an excellent job. And I like to use your word, it's been fabulous.
That's one of my favorites. Thank you. And I do have one more council meeting, so.
You do. Councilors, any other comments?
I got one.
Other than I'm thinking red now.
I've had a hard time keeping my mouth shut today.
Take your time.
As one of your seven, over the past several years, I've sometimes referred to you as Snow White. But as one of your seven, I just want to wish you the very best in your next endeavor.
Thank you.
And Michelle, if you can explain anything to anybody in your new position, as well as what you have taken the time to explain TIF financing to me over the last nearly 2 years. I was finally able to get a grasp on it. It took a while, but thanks to you, I got it.
I thought it was somebody's name.
So did I.
Thank you. Someone has to accept it, yeah.
You know,
Good luck getting that motion.
It's a long time from an office behind the stage to the office in front of things. The only thing I have is to thank you for saying yes 9 years ago.
So it's all Steve Beetham's fault, by the way. So that's why he's saying that.
No.
Councilor Forty.
Difficult. 20 years ago, Frank Myatt and I took this young, energetic young lady to Portland for her first MMA conference. 20 years later, she is leaving the city of Ellsworth as president of that Maine Municipal Association. 5 of her years as manager, I was fortunate enough to work with her closely as the chairman. and there is absolutely nothing that she wasn't willing to tackle, discuss, and bring to us as a council. And for that, the city of Ellsworth has incredibly been benefited, so thank you.
And I myself, I think, was here along with Stephen and Gary when you came on board. It's been a pleasure. You've done a remarkable job. Sorry to see you. Thank you.
And then I have known no other manager in my time on council.
You're fortunate.
I wasn't going to say that. I've heard some rumors. But I can't really imagine working with anyone else. I'm having a hard time wrapping my mind around the concept of someone else as our leader, but I'll have to do that. I've really, really appreciated you as sort of a mentor and a guide through the whole process as I learned about council and the city of Ellsworth. Have been really, really wonderful. We'll miss you and good luck.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, this is with the deep heart that I move we accept the resignation of our city manager.
Second. Moved by Councilor Fortier, seconded by Councilor Beetham. We accept the resignation of the city manager as presented to us tonight. Any further discussion? I think we've discussed it at length. All those in favor? Opposed, if any?
I can't see a unanimous decision to send her on her way.
No. No. I think you reflect, that's a good reflection of our hearts right there. That's right. Okay. Thank you.
He does what's right, not what is supposed to be done.
So that was 6-0, Madam Clerk, with one opposition, and that was Councilor Moore.
6-0.
Voting on behalf of all of us.
Does that translate out to 6-1?
Yeah, well, 6-0 plus 1. I was in the legislature too long.
Yeah.
Item number 24, executive session to discuss labor contracts in accordance with MRSA Title I, Chapter 13, Section 405, Paragraph 6D. We are going into executive session. We'll come out of executive session with hopes to enact our business from that executive session, and then to go into executive session a second time. Move to go into executive session.
With no action expected after the second.
No action expected after the second executive session.
So moved. Second.
Second.
Can I have like 2 minutes?
Oh, yeah.
No.
All in favor of going into executive session? Thank you.
Are we inviting Ms. Moat to stay? Michelle, are we inviting Ms. Moat to stay?
Contracts back.
No, if you
Well,
approve
Dan,
it.
that can back out if you want. Huh?
If you approve it.
It was Beetham and Fortier, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
40 or Beetham.
Or Fortier and Beetham?
Doesn't matter. One line,
Either
the
one.
other swear to it.
Yeah.
Someone go start my truck.
Okay, we're back in regular session. Item number 25 is Council Order number 021513, discussion and action on the Ellsworth Highway Unit. Council number 93, AFS-CME FL-CIO labor contract.
Mr. Chairman, move approval of Council Order 021513, contract as presented.
Second.
Authorize the city manager to sign on behalf of the city.
Still second.
Moving second, any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous. Just wanted to say at this time, on behalf of the City Council and all the citizens that we represent, we want to say a huge thank you to all the people at the Ellsworth Highway, in the Highway Department, the Works Department, for the great job that they've been doing ongoing for a number of weeks now with snow removal and keeping the streets clear, keeping the city safe. We certainly appreciate it, and we know that's been a real busy task for all of them. They've had to put in a lot of extra hours and just to try to keep up with it, let alone keep ahead of it. And still got lots of work to do out there by the looks of it, but we want to extend our thanks to them. All right, at this time, with a motion, we'll go back into executive session to discuss the condition, acquisition, or use of real or personal property in accordance with MRSA Title I, Chapter 13, Section 405, Paragraph 6C.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Thank you. We're in executive session. We will